Marriage Champions. I'm Amy Morgan, the feature writer for the Marriage Initiative. I am so excited to introduce you to Trey and Lee Morgan. No relation, although we share the same last name. They've been inspiring and equipping couples for 34 years from the Texas Panhandle, where Trey has been the preaching minister for the Children's Church of Christ since 2003. They've written 3 books in the past 4 years: The Daily Marriage Challenge, 60 Short Challenges for Busy Couples, Wisdom for Your Marriage, and 10 Ways to a Stronger Marriage, the latter developed out of the content of their Stronger Marriage Workshop. They've impacted thousands of people personally through their more than 120 workshops and marriage cruises, and their reach has exponentiated through their use of social media. Trey, Lee, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having us. It's an honor to be with you. Yes.
We're glad to be here. Yes. Thank you for having us on the show.
Well, we are just so looking forward to hearing from you. And you guys did something really special just a few weeks ago. You went on a Stronger Marriage cruise. So tell us about that. Tell us about how that works and what you shared.
We did. So this is the second time we've done this. We partnered with another couple who does workshops and kind of the same thing that we do. Wayne and Tammy Roberts from His Shoes, Her Shoes ministry. And they asked us if we would partner with them to help recruit people to go on this cruise. And so we did that. We each had class sessions that we taught on the cruise, but we gave couples plenty of time to just, enjoy the cruise and enjoy, connecting and reconnecting on the cruise. So it was great. We had, how many couples did we have go? 65. We had 65 couples that went. So it was a lot of fun, and we hope to do more of these.
Yeah, it's a good outreach. We told couples you could come to as many classes as you want to, or sessions, and you didn't have to come to any if you didn't want to. And so it was kind of, the ball was in their court of what they wanted to do and how much time they spent. But we had good crowds and good classes, and lots of people showed up for it. And it was a lot of fun. We cruised out of Galveston and went to Cozumel for about a day and a half to 2 days, and then turned around and came home. And it was a 5-day. And when we take a group as big as ours, they give us a discount. And so cruise prices were really, really very good for those who cruise. I was amazed at how for what small price we could all go on a cruise together and just focus on our marriages.
Oh, and I bet some lifelong friendships were made too.
I think so. Yes, for sure.
Which is so good to have that support of a posse, of the iron sharpens iron.
That's it. And some of them, they've all made a little group. We got back and we're all in a little group, and everybody's still talking about what they like the best and posting pictures of date nights, when everybody would dress up and go and eat together. And, no matter what your marriage is like, if it's struggling, if it's good, if it's great, you spend 5 days on a boat together, locked up, away from social media and cell phones, and good things happen. You just have to spend time together. So it's a really healthy setting.
I love it. Well, and as we alluded to, you guys did give some talks. So let's talk about some of your content from your Stronger Marriage Workshop, because that's kind of your flagship, right? Your workshops. You've given like 120. Let's talk about your content, and then I'd love to hear how God brought that to the forefront.
We try to cover every area, a lot of areas in our workshops, specifically the areas that are just some good practical stuff. We want folks leaving our workshop going, she's given us a list of some things that we could do, some ways that we could make things better, whether it's communication, whether it's in our sexual intimacy, whether it's in our affection and dating and doing things like that. So we cover a lot of areas. We also, one of the things that I like best is we cover a lot of kind of new areas that couples are struggling in, something that not a lot of books have been written about, and just kind of cell phones and how to do social media in marriage, and the struggles of just having social media and internet at your fingertips, and kind of what are some rules? How do you do that in your marriage, and how much is too much? And, should I share my passwords and my cell phone code with my spouse, and where do we draw the line on things like this? And so we try to cover a little bit of everything in there. And our main goal is couples leaving the workshop going, we got this. We can do this. We want to pump folks up to make them realize how important their marriage is and send them out into the world going, we got this. We're going to work on building a really, really great marriage.
And now you do the workshops both at your home church, right? But you also are available for our marriage champions to invite you to come to their church, correct?
Absolutely. Travel all over the country. We try to do just about one a month because we are in full-time ministry, with our local church here, but we will travel all over. So
we were in Jasper, Alabama last month. We head to Ada, Oklahoma next week, and then we're going to be in Casper, Wyoming in March, Phoenix, Arizona in April. And one of the cool things is like in Jasper, Alabama, we had 5 states represented there, people from surrounding areas, couples that had driven 5, 6, 7, 8 hours away to come. And it's just it's so neat that churches are realizing, hey, we need to provide something for community and area couples who are asking questions on how to do marriages. And they're saying, hey, come do one of these here. And people show up. The church last week said, we don't even know who about 85% of the couples are here. And so if you're wanting a good draw to bring people into your building, to let them to see that you're good folks here and just really bless marriages, your own folks and the community, what a great way to do it is a marriage workshop. And we love the opportunity to get to do it.
Well, I think people are tired of being cooped up and ready to gather again and ready to.
I agree.
And couples can make it a getaway. If they see a destination on our schedule that, hey, we've never visited there, let's go. Make it a whole weekend, a whole fun weekend. So.
Yeah. And a lot of couples will do that. They'll just come spend the whole weekend there. They'll go to classes on Friday night, Saturday morning with us, and then they'll spend Saturday night running around and having fun and go home on Sunday. And so it's a healthy getaway weekend for a couple just to have some time. And a lot of the churches provide childcare. So some couples will go, hey, we can't come if we can't find something to do with our kids. And the churches will go, bring us your kids and you come sit in class and we'll watch your kids.
That's a huge benefit, especially for those who have the little ones. Well, Trey, you alluded to it, but one of the things that you were saying is you touch on some of those areas, kind of the millennial Gen Z boundary areas. And you have a friend, right, who's a lawyer that's kind of advised you. Let's talk a little bit more about that, because a lot of, even though you do talk about some of the traditional things like communication and conflict and that, you kind of approach it from a real relevant way to the younger generation. So let's talk about that a little.
Yeah, there's a lot of new things that show up all the time that cause problems in marriage, and they're not bad things. You just have to know that there's got to be some rules with whatever it is. And we have a friend that is he's actually a district judge, and he sees lots of divorce cases. Sadly, when they get to him, it's not a pretty thing. And so we're able to go to him oftentimes and say, what do you see in the cases that you see that we need to be talking about? What are tripping couples up? What are they doing that somebody needs to be talking about? And every time we talk to him, he says, keep talking about cell phones and keep talking about just how to use your cell phones. This is something new in the last 15, 20 years that he, generally he'll hold up a phone and he'll go, one or more of both parties were doing something on their cell phone that they shouldn't have done, texting someone. They built a relationship outside their marriage with someone they shouldn't have. And so when we wrote our 10 Ways to a Stronger Marriage book, we put a chapter in there called Let's Get Naked, about the nakedness of Adam and Eve and how they were totally open and uncovered with one another. There were no secrets. Nothing was hidden. It wasn't just that they didn't have on clothes. They were just totally naked. And we talked about nakedness in your cell phone, in your social media, in your secrets, in your life, that marriage works best when you don't hide things from one another. And we believe that, we preach that, we teach that. And, if we can get couples to realize, hey, I should be able to set my cell phone down. And if my wife wants to pick it up and use it for something, she is more than welcome to, because I'm not doing anything there that I don't want her to see. My phone is her phone. My social media is her social media. We just don't keep secrets from one another. There's not only accountability in that, but that's really the way God designed marriage, is to be to be naked and just totally open in every area with one another. And so that's really a big push. We spend a lot of time talking about this. That chapter, the interesting thing was we really thought, I thought as a man, the chapter in that book, 10 Ways to a Stronger Marriage, the chapter on sex would be the one everybody said, oh, this is good. This is fun stuff. And it's the chapter we did on being naked, not sexually, but naked emotionally and intellectually and every other way with one another, that everybody goes, that's the chapter that we all needed. And so we realized we had touched on a sore spot, or just a spot that needed some attention with couples and marriages who were trying to negotiate. How do we do cell phones, and how do we do social media, and what are the rules for passwords and talking to our ex or talking to people of the opposite sex on social media or cell phones? And so we try to address a lot of that stuff.
Yeah. I would think, really, a lot of the younger generation, first of all, they didn't see their parents do it because there's no model, because nobody had that. And, I have young adult sons, and they see how my husband and I do it. We have the same password or pass number, it's the same one on both of our phones. So either one of us could, and sometimes do, it's pick up each other's, the aunt's calling or whatever. So they've seen that, but they're still not quite in that marriage stage yet. But those who are already married, they haven't seen their parents negotiate these things. There's no boundaries. Yeah. There are boundaries, but they didn't learn them growing up.
Right. And so some of them are just kind of like, how am I supposed to do this? Should I let my spouse use my cell phone? And we're like, why wouldn't you? Don't be doing anything on your cell phone that you don't want your spouse to see anyway. And so that's just good, healthy relationship, marriage material.
Yeah. You had a story, a really cautionary story about a couple you told me that was getting ready to celebrate. I think it was their 12th anniversary.
Yeah, it was. And we see this all the time. And sadly, it's not a good story. But this is a regular story we hear nearly every day of one spouse starts texting someone of the opposite sex that they should not. They build a friendship with them. Before you know it, that friendship becomes something that I'm hiding on my cell phone from my spouse. We develop a really close emotional friendship, almost what we call an emotional affair. We haven't touched, but I have a connection with you now through this. It literally took 30 days for this couple to go from planning their 12th anniversary to her asking him to move out because this person had wedged in with an emotional affair on the cell phone and texting one another that she was hiding from her husband. And a month later, she had filed for divorce. And it was just a really, really sad ordeal. Just another example of how quickly, if you let your guard down, you can get yourself in trouble. And we talk about this all the time, not just in conferences, but between ourselves, how careful we need to be in how we handle things and not letting, temptation sneak up on us and get us because we're not paying attention.
Yeah, that's so well. I do want to talk about your books because you wrote 3 in 4 years, and that's really remarkable. But I think since we're on this subject of appropriate use of cell phones and social media, you guys are just kudos to you because your ministry is one of the strongest I've seen that just really harnesses the power of social media for good to get out some great messages in a great way. And I think our marriage champions would be really interested to know about your social media offerings and how you have flipped that switch. Because as we talk about how much social media is the right amount and what are you looking at in your social media, well, like everything, there's a double-edged sword, and where it can be used for bad, you guys also use it for good. I know I didn't really have much to do with Instagram, and I followed you guys because yours are good. So I was really interested in that. So let's talk about that because that's a real positive.
Well, there are a lot of people out there that have really great marriage content on Instagram that we also follow and draw inspiration from. We have a presence there. We have a presence on Facebook. We have a presence on Twitter. So yeah, I think any form where you can reach people with a positive message about marriage, we should be taking advantage of that.
Yeah. And we had done years ago, we started a little Facebook page and really didn't know what we were doing. And we just thought we'll post a couple of good, healthy marriage quotes there twice a day. And I think part of it is being regular at doing that, not doing it one day and a week later posting something else. We post every day. We have something on there. And we started with that, and our little Facebook group grew to about 80, 90,000, I guess is what it was. And then we had our son, who is a digital media arts major. He said, Dad, y'all really need a presence on Instagram. That's really where the younger generation is going. He said, Facebook is awesome, but that is not where you need to be reaching. He said, if you really want to reach your younger couples, your new married couples, you need to get to Instagram. And so after he really twisted our arm, we thought, all right, we'll give it a try. And that's where our content really blew up, was over on Instagram. And we post about once a day, sometimes twice a day on Instagram. And we started about maybe 4 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, somewhere in there. And we just post something about marriage, generally a quote from one of our marriage workshops or something on there, because there's plenty of stuff that I would consider just garbage on social media. And we just thought, surely we can put something out there that somebody would want to look at that's positive and good. And so we just started kind of posting stuff. It was free. It cost us no money. We don't have a lot of money to spend in this little ministry that we do. And so before you knew it, it just took off and took off and took off. And actually in about the last 3 months, it's about tripled in size. I think we have about 350,000 followers on Instagram, which is really cool because that just gets that marriage message out about how to have healthy marriages. And it tells us that there are couples who are looking for answers on how to do marriage. We can get out information about where our workshops are. Our workshops, have a great following because of our social media pages. And I think the key to, if you want a good social media following, post regularly and post quality stuff. And that's the main thing. You just need to put something out there that's positive and good and thought-provoking. Not everybody's going to like it. We have to understand it. Sometimes we post things that, 80% will go, this is awesome, we needed this. And we may have a handful of people that go, this is the worst advice ever. And that's life. I mean, that's okay. You don't have to agree with us on everything. We basically speak out of experience. Lee always says, we're going to tell you what not to do because these didn't work in our marriage. And so that's kind of where we post from. It's just experience on what works for us and doesn't work for us. And it doesn't always work for everybody, but just simple things to remind you why marriage and family is important. Twitter, we've only been there a couple of years. We're trying to get that going. It's coming along pretty good. We have about 50,000 followers on Twitter. That one was the one that worried me a little bit. Twitter is those who are on Twitter will understand this. Twitter's a little weird. It's the odd, the weird stuff. You don't know what you're going to get on. And it kind of worried me because I thought, man, we are setting ourselves up for some strange comments. And we have really found a lot of people on Twitter that were looking for good, healthy marriage material. And so anything we can do to get the message out for free, it doesn't require just a whole lot of work on our part.
My younger son is 23, and that's where he gets most of his information is Twitter. He follows different things, and that is truly where he gets. So really even reaching there are 23-year-olds that are married. I mean, they're
and it's a different audience. There's people on Twitter that doesn't have Instagram. And there's people on Instagram that doesn't have that Facebook. And so you kind of have to follow where people are. And so that's kind of what we're trying to do. And like I said, if we can get that message out about how to do healthy marriages and people will listen, it's worth our time.
Well, and you guys are obviously successful because you had one post that had 2 million people like it.
We had what it showed us is that there were over 2 million people that had viewed it.
Okay.
I don't remember how many likes it had, but we've actually had another one that's kind of blown up. You never know what's going to touch a nerve or just a heart to where all of a sudden it just takes off. But we've had 2 or 3 that have had well over 2 million viewers, meaning 2 million folks looked at it, shared it, commented on it, liked it, or something. And it's been pretty crazy. Sometimes sometimes the people in our world that we tend to look at the rich or the famous or the sports stars or the Hollywood people to see some of them who will like a picture or comment on something that will just kind of make you think, wow, we've kind of reached a new area of people. It's not a, hey, we're anything big. It's more of a, hey, these are people who actually have some influence, and for them to be able to read some posts about how to do a healthy marriage makes us feel good.
Well, and you just used the word influence. And I was going to say that, those people are called influencers
That's right.
for a reason, because they have an audience and they have a platform. And just like talking about that double-edged sword again, it's so wonderful to see how God can take a platform and an audience and an influence and use it for the good and magnify what he's doing through your work. So it is fun to see that, and to see some of those in places like WWE wrestlers. And
yeah, we have multiple wrestlers that follow us on social media, which always just kind of makes us grin, because it's kind of like, that's pretty awesome. And so, yeah, and we've had some NBA players. We had Kansas City Chiefs just won the Super Bowl, and their center for their offensive line is he follows our marriage page on Instagram, and
wow.
so I just thought that's pretty cool. The Kansas City Chiefs owner is Mr. Hunt. His wife has liked a bunch of our stuff on Instagram, and so just the fact that the material's getting out there, and we're just trying to promote healthy marriages, and our material is 2,000 years old. We're basically just telling you what God said and how to do relationships and marriage. And so it's not anything that's new, but it seems fresh to people because people have quit listening to it.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you reach new audiences like that, the word of God and God's ideas for marriage are new to them. That's, I'm glad you mentioned the Chiefs, because I'm from Kansas City. So I knew we were friends already, but I was going to have to scowl at you a little bit if you mentioned the other team.
Not at all.
Although, marriage champions, we love you wherever you are.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about your resources. Let's talk about your books again. We kind of talked a little bit about the 10 Ways to a Stronger Marriage, but then you have some others.
We do. So 10 Ways was the first book that we wrote. We kind of patterned it after our workshop material. The second one we wrote is called Wisdom for Your Marriage, and it is a study through the book of Proverbs. And so, what better place to find wisdom for your marriage than the book of Proverbs itself? So we encourage couples to read a chapter of Proverbs a day. We give a little, short synopsis story to go along with it, and then some discussion questions for you to do together to kind of evaluate where you are on that particular topic, and a prayer prompt, which we feel like, praying together is such a huge part of spiritual intimacy that a lot of couples miss out on. So, that's
we've always loved doing devotional books together, and we just thought we would write one of our own. And so it's a devotional book. You can do it on your own, or you can do it as a couple. And one of the areas that we find some couples really lacking in the intimacy area is the spiritual intimacy. We find couples that understand sexual intimacy and intellectual intimacy that comes from communication, and recreational intimacy that comes from hanging out, but they don't really understand the value of spiritual intimacy. And it is, once you tap into that, when you connect to God as a couple, and you start reading your Bible together or praying together, it is incredible where it will take your marriage. And we have couples all the time that go, we have been missing out on spiritual intimacy. And so that's kind of where that book goes. It really tries to pull some folks in. There was a new poll out by Gallup recently, couples that pray together.
It said that couples that pray together every day end up less than 1% of couples that pray together every day end up in divorce. And we had a couple that came to one of our workshops and said, your book, Wisdom for Your Marriage, saved our marriage. And I said, our book didn't save your marriage. It was God's word and your commitment to his word that saved your marriage. And so if couples will really apply, what they're reading to their marriage, I mean, it can be life-changing. So
one of the cool stories I loved about that book was we had a lady reach out to us, and it was on Instagram, who said, "We've bought your book. We really don't know anything about spirituality, about Christianity, about faith." And she said, "We don't even have a Bible to read Proverbs from to go with this book." She said, "What do I need to look for?" So I sent her some links. I said, "This is a good Bible. You don't have to spend a lot of money." And so we helped walk her through how to go find a Bible, how to pick one out that kind of went with the book that we wrote, translation wise. And we were just blown away watching her and her husband through just messages back and forth talk about what they were learning as they went. And it was like they were a blank slate completely, reading the Bible for the very, very first time.
I love how you all personally took the time to interact with them, even electronically. Again, a great application of how to use the electronic tools for good, but you personally took the time to disciple them. That's, not like you don't have other things to do. You both have ministry careers, as well as your marriage ministry, as well as, is it 5 children?
4.
4.
Yes, 4. They're all grown. So we are empty nesters, and we have more time to commit to what we do now that they're out of the house. But yeah, 4 grown sons.
Yeah. You kept going.
Yeah, we did. So, and then we have one final book that is the Daily Marriage Challenge, which is 60 short challenges for marriage. And it's sort of a thought that you can, it's a good marriage thought, kind of like what we put on Instagram a lot of times. And then we give a little challenge to go along with the thought. It may be something that we encourage you to do together, or it may just be, be aware of this throughout your day kind of challenge. And then there's also a prayer prompt and a scripture that goes along with the challenge for each day.
That book has done extremely well. We have been so blessed by how well that book has done. And couples who have reached out to us saying, "My husband and I just read that for a few moments each day, and it gives us something to talk about all day long about how we can improve some areas of our marriage."
Yeah, it requires very little time, but it just keeps your marriage at the forefront of your mind. It just keeps you thinking about it and to be intentional about it. We preach intentionality all the time. You've got to be intentional with everything. So that's a good book to go through with your spouse.
Can you give us an example of a couple of your challenges offhand?
Man, I wish we had the book sitting right here. Can you, off the top of your head?
I can tell you. I can tell you a couple of them. One we did recently that really we actually posted it on our Instagram story, was talking about tone. What kind of tone do you use with your spouse most of the time? And we talked a little bit about sometimes it just seems like we use a tone with the people we love the most, which we shouldn't. Yeah. And we talked about, we just had a little challenge of, where could you improve? Maybe you should ask your spouse out the times when I'm using a tone when I shouldn't. And then it had a prayer prompt of, "Help me, dear Lord, help me to watch my tone in the way that we talk." And one of the challenges this week, because we're trying to do this, was a challenge about being intentional with affection, holding hands, take time to plan a date this week, which we've done, to plan a trip sometime or another, just to kind of a getaway. It doesn't have to be a big trip. It can just be hey, we're going to sneak out of town or sneak off and watch a movie together. And so that day had like 3 or 4 challenges that you would do during the week. And we have worked really hard. We're actually going through the book with a lot of other folks. Started in January, and I think we're on like day 31. We're a little behind, but we've done pretty good keeping up. But it's been good for us to talk about stuff like that as well.
Well, and that's encouraging too. And how many years have y'all been married?
34.
See, that's so encouraging to know that even no matter, it's an ongoing thing, enriching your marriage and staying strong and connected together doesn't have an expiration date, right? Oh gosh, Trey and Lee, you guys are so much fun, and I've enjoyed talking with you so much, but we have just reached the end of our time together. So thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate you coming.
Well, thank you.
We are honored to be here, and thank you for taking time to visit with us today.
And Marriage Champions, as always, if you'd like to get to know more about the Morgans, which of course I love their name, you can always find us at marriageinitiative.org.